I'm really glad to see the Democratic base once again getting energized and once again getting enthusiastic because, folks, it's been a rough couple of weeks. I mean, if you go back and look at the last month alone, we have really been through the ringer. It all started with the debate, and ever since that moment, we was all on the defensive from that moment on because immediately the mainstream media jumped on Joe Biden, and we had to stand up and defend him. People on the right were mocking and making fun of him. People on the left were worried and concerned. So we were totally on the defense the entire time. The Supreme Court gave presidents immunity for official acts, and that was pretty depressing. So, we started to feel kind of hopeless. And then we watched Trump dodge a bullet, literally. And while we sat there and watched that in disgust, because none of us wanted political violence, I think what disgusted most of us even more was the fact that the guy used it to turn it into a photo op and used it as a way to sell merch. And then we had to sit through the RNC, which just played out like the movie Idiocracy right in front of our faces. So it's been a long couple of weeks with so much coming at us, and then President Biden officially drops out of the race. And there was so much emotion at first for me. I went through so many emotions in a real quick period of time. I went from being shocked to being angry and pissed off to being heartbroken and sad, and then to starting to feel hopeful and optimistic. And now that I see Vice President Kamala Harris, rising like the phoenix, she's raised over $81 million in the last 24 hours. And that's what it was when I sat down to make this video. I don't know where it's at this particular moment, but that's where it was when I started the video. It's truly amazing to see people getting energized and getting behind her now. And I think it's time that we all unify and unite and come together now and realize it's time to beat Donald Trump. And we start looking at all of the positives that are in this situation. When Kamala got behind the microphone and began talking, I was like, yep, we're going to be okay. Folks, take a look at this.
As a young prosecutor, when I was in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office in California, I specialized in cases involving sexual abuse. Donald Trump was found liable by a jury for committing sexual abuse. As Attorney General of California, I took on one of our country's largest for-profit colleges and put it out of business. Donald Trump ran a for-profit college, Trump University, that was forced to pay $25 million to the students it scammed. As district attorney, to go after polluters, I created one of the first environmental justice units in our nation. Donald Trump stood in Mar-a-Lago and told big oil lobbyists he would do their bidding for a $1 billion campaign contribution. During the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big Wall Street banks and won $20 billion for California families, holding those banks accountable for fraud. Donald Trump was just found guilty of 34 counts of fraud.
And that, my friends, is why Donald Trump is shaking in his boots. He does not want to debate Kamala Harris because now the entire script has been flipped. Now we have prosecutor versus felon. All of the arguments that Donald Trump was using against Joe Biden have went completely out the window. He has to start from scratch. And the funniest part about this is watching him squirm. The funniest part about this is watching MAGA squirm because now all their talking points are dead in the water. They have no legs anymore. So now we can start fresh and we can start reminding people of who we are. We can start reminding people of our policy and what we stand for. And we have a fresh start here. Kamala Harris, I feel like, will be the nominee. I'm behind her 100%. I know some of you may be saying, well, Brando, you sure switched awful quick. You were saying that Biden should stick in the race. Yes, I was, because I felt like that we needed to stand behind Joe Biden until he said otherwise. I think that Joe Biden has been one of the most effective presidents of all of our lifetimes. He's definitely been the most effective president in my lifetime. Got more done in his one term than a lot of presidents get done in two. And so I think that we should applaud that man, and we should have, I was just, in my mind, it was like, you know what, I'm going to stick with this guy till he says otherwise. And now that he's said otherwise, I respect his decision. I respect the fact that he put, the country over his own interest. And now let's get behind Kamala and let's beat Donald Trump, because that's the one thing that we all have in common. But what is so refreshing to see is Kamala go to bat for Joe and say, look, this man was an effective president. We do have a good record to run on. This is something we should be proud of. And this is something that Democrats should have been doing a long damn time ago. But take a look at Kamala here. She just knocks it out of the park.
Now I'm getting back to you, Joe. I will tell you, it has been one of the greatest honors of my life, truly, to serve as vice president to our president, Joe Biden. Joe's legacy of accomplishment, just over a lifetime, but just over the last 3.5 years, is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who served 2 terms in office. Think about it. And I know everyone here in the campaign, we know. But if we don't know, we got a problem. But I'm going to repeat some for those who might be guests at the moment. Joe got the COVID-19 pandemic under control. Remember those days? He has created more than 15 million new jobs. He brought together Republicans and Democrats and passed historic legislation. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a firsthand witness to all this work. I would sit with Joe in the Oval Office while he would bring members of both sides of the aisle and talk and listen and help them see what they may have in common and how we can actually work towards solutions. And because of their confidence in Joe, these accomplishments occurred.
You know, one of the main criticisms that I've heard of the Democratic Party over the years is that we suck at messaging. And part of me agrees with that. There's so many times that I say to myself, you should lean into this. You should own this. You should take credit and take pride in what you've done. Can you imagine if Donald Trump had have accomplished what Joe Biden accomplished during his term? They'd be calling for him to be on Mount Rushmore. They'd be calling for him to be on the money. I mean, they kind of already are. They put his face on Rambo's body and everything else. But if Donald Trump had Joe Biden's accomplishments under his belt, the right would never stop talking about it. The left, a lot of times, we're always on the defensive. We're always trying to find a way to diminish what we do. And that's something I don't think we need to do anymore. I think we need to be positive now. We need to go on the offensive, and we need to let people know exactly who we are and what we stand for. Now we're going to have a new ticket, no matter how it goes. You know, I made a poll here on the YouTube channel. I wanted to know, what do you guys think? Do you think Kamala should be our nominee? Should we have an open convention? I'm open to have that debate. I'm open to hear both sides of that argument. That's a both sides argument there, folks. That's one we can have. You know, either way you slice it, we're going to have a new ticket, and Donald Trump is going to have the same old act. Now he's stuck with the same old act, and I think it's so funny to see. It was brilliant timing. It really was, for Joe Biden to step down, drop out when he did. It was perfect timing, because now they're stuck with J.D. Vance, which I hear some people saying that Trump's already regretting that move. It's going to be funny watching them try to rearrange everything as their house of cards collapses around them. But they're stuck with the same old act. They're stuck with a rambling idiot that wants to go on about Hannibal Lecter. They're stuck with a moron who wants to sit and talk about his uncle at MIT and batteries and sharks. And meanwhile, now we have Vice President Kamala Harris, a former prosecutor, who has stood up against the likes of Donald Trump and who can give it back to him. Let me ask you guys a question. Be honest. How many of you was worried about a second Biden-Trump debate? How many was worried? How many was afraid that, you know what, Biden may not be able to rally? It may come off the rails again. I'll own it. I was. I think we all were. We don't have to worry about that this go around. Now we just got to sit back and watch to see if Trump has the balls to show up to debate her. And if he does, we're going to see him get his ass handed to him by someone who can give it back to him, someone who has been giving it back to people like him for years. So it's time to get energized. It's time to quit being on the defensive. It's time to quit arguing amongst ourselves. It's time to get excited again, because, folks, watching Donald Trump finally lose is just going to be, it's going to be glorious. It really will be. We have to stay focused. Stop the infighting. Let's get back to having healthy debates on our side. Let's get back to not always being on the defensive, and let's go on the offensive and show MAGA that there's more of us than there ever was of them. I truly believe that. I believe that MAGA is a very loud minority, and it's time for the rest of us to come together and show the world that that's the truth.